Now that Ethereum has merged and went proof of stake last week, what should we expect for Cardano's Vasil upgrade tomorrow? Last time when Cardano had an upgrade, the Alonzo hard fork on 12th of September 2021, I nailed the ADA top on the day. That was here, 12th of September. As you recall, if you've been a viewer here for some time, and if you haven't, well, better subscribe, folks. Specifically, I suggested that the prudent thing to do was to put a stop loss at the day of the hard fork. Because even if it's successful, there's a chance that we get a buy the rumor, sell the news event. That was probably my most hated video up until then. But I'm not here to be liked. So, is that what will happen again? If today is the upgrade, is today the last day to sell? Or will it be different this time? We're in a bear market now and everyone is already depressed. Is this the time to get in? To manage expectations, I can't tell you specifically what to do because I'm not your financial advisor, I don't know your personal situation. I can just educate, present facts, show models, give you tools, and try to empower you to take better decisions yourself. Let's first take a step back and look at the path that Cardano is on and try to answer those questions together in this video. The update was delayed several times, but it seems it will finally go live tomorrow on September 27 in the evening UTC time. Many members of the Cardano community see this upgrade as an important milestone for Cardano's future developments to become one of the main players in the DeFi space. While others feel reminded of the September 2021 Alonzo upgrade which I just showed you, which sent price up and then missed to deliver the promised adoption and led to a steady decline instead. So today I want to give you an overview of the current developments and how they might affect the evolution of the Cardano ecosystem. Quick recap first. It was in 2015 that Cardano was founded by the Ethereum co-founder Charles Hoskinson, and the mainnet went live in 2017. His ideas with the protocol was to target overcoming the scalability and security issues that he saw in Bitcoin and Ethereum. The development of the network is mainly covered by Input Output Hong Kong, which was co-founded by Hoskinson after he left Ethereum. And there's a lot of people here according to the website. Oh wow. Cardano has been proof of stake from the start and uses a consensus mechanism called Ouroboros, which allows to stake ADA just like you can do with ETH proof of stake now, and ADA is also used to pay fees for the transactions just like ETH gas on Ethereum. And it's also meant to allow holders to participate in community governance. Estimates vary, but currently the network can probably process around 250 to 500 transactions per second. But the numbers are not directly comparable to, for example, ETH, because the UTXO model that Cardano is using enables bundling transactions. But I think most people agree that it's faster than, for example, Bitcoin layer 1 7 TPS, but it's slower than, for example, some other modern layer 1 blockchains like Algorand. That's maybe 1500 TPS, or Solana, that's 2500 TPS or even higher. A layer 2 scaling solution called Hydra is in development and should allow the network to scale a lot more, maybe up to 1 million TPS. If looking into the library, the protocol really gives high priority to security. All the protocol implementations are deeply researched and modeled for years usually before they go live, with the intention that this should result in a highly reliable network, even though it's not the fastest to churn out new features. And this is really what the team and supporters believe could be a big advantage against other protocols in the blockchain space, where a tiny issue could lead to ruining the whole network forever. And this is supported also by the choice of programming language, Haskell, which has, I would say, a higher learning threshold before you can start producing something than, for example, Solidity or JavaScript that's easier to start with right away. Another priority topic is decentralization, and Cardano has managed to become one of the most decentralized protocols. That's a fact, and one way that they have done it is that the protocol motivates the creation of additional staking pools by decreasing rewards when too many ADA are staked in a single pool. And I think it is thanks to this mechanism that the network now has 3,200 staking pools, from which the biggest stake is Binance, with about 11% of all staked tokens. And of course, if Cardano succeeds with this roadmap, it has the potential to become one of the fastest and most secure layer 1 networks from a technical perspective. But it still struggles with adoption. And arguably that's what really matters. As you remember, the Alonzo upgrade in September last year was really adding the smart contract functionality, which of course is really the key functionality to start building decentralized applications. And for example, here on this website there are now 73 dApps listed in different categories: atomic swap, NFT minting service, data analytics, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of them here. But if you go to, for example, DeFi Llama, of course this doesn't capture all the value in the dApps, but still, the total value locked here is $79 million. And the trend in US dollar, you see the scale here, has not gone in the right direction, though in number of ADA it has been more flat. And if we compare with other chains, of course Ethereum is the biggest, Tron, BSC, Avalanche, Polygon, Solana. See if I can scroll down. Cardano comes here at 0.16%. So of course 30 billion TVL on Ethereum versus 79 million on Cardano, and 73 dApps versus thousands of dApps active on the network on Ethereum. So of course from this perspective, the problem here really is adoption. And while the initial version of smart contracts now allowed the community to build the first applications on the network, but more complex DeFi projects haven't really launched yet. And one reason was that many found it more complex to build these dApps than it was, for example, with the Ethereum execution model, because of the way that transactions were batched. Now Vasil might bring the necessary improvements to give more projects the tool to build these dApps on the Cardano network. And according to IOHK, there are currently another 1,000 projects developing on Cardano in a variety of areas: NFT collection, community and social, developer tools, NFT marketplace, gaming, metaverse. Initially, the Vasil upgrade had been scheduled for June 2022. However, it was delayed after the collapse of the Terra ecosystem and the following crypto market chaos. The Cardano Foundation team decided to take a few more weeks to recheck everything. Probably a good idea. Since June, the upgrade has been delayed twice. A major reason is that the developer team has been running quite a few tests, and they've also had to deal with various software issues. According to Hoskinson, the Vasil hard fork was the hardest update they have ever worked on. So let's hope it works. The Vasil update comes within the Basho phase of the Cardano roadmap. I'm actually not sure if I pronounced this artist's name correctly. Otherwise, please correct me. This phase is focused on scaling by implementing improvements to smart contracts and to scale up the network. And this Basho phase will not end with the current upgrade. And this phase will last until next year, when Hydra is expected to be complete. Then Voltaire will be the next phase, focusing on governance. That's when they aim for a truly decentralized network. And the voting system will allow ADA holders to play a more active role in the decision process. And the treasury system should allow them to fund future developments. The upgrade will also include key improvements in Plutus, which is Cardano's this Haskell-based smart contract programming language, to allow for faster and smaller transactions on the network, which could be key actually. This upgrade itself is rather technical and prepares for additional improvements that will come later down the road. For example, something called diffusion pipelining will be rolled out with this update to improve the consensus layer block propagation. And this step is the preparation for something called input endorsers that will come with a later upgrade. And that will allow to send more frequent, unconfirmed blocks between the consensus blocks, and thereby much higher throughput in the network. The update of Plutus contains mainly 3 Cardano improvements proposals CIP. The first is reference inputs, which will allow dApps to access transactional output without having to recreate them. Inline datums, which will allow developers to store data on-chain instead of datum hashes that need to be communicated between the peers. And 33 reference scripts. And this one can significantly lower transaction cost actually by cutting the size of the transactions and making them more compact. The NFT marketplace Artano tested the results from the Plutus update on their marketplace transactions, which showed a reduction in transaction size by over 90% and transaction fees by more than 75%. So of course this could open for new use cases for Cardano. Cardano's core team sees itself as a competitor and perhaps even successor of Ethereum. However, the Cardano blockchain still has a long way to go in my opinion. Cardano seems instead to be lagging behind. It took very long for upgrades and to improve scalability and transaction fees. Cardano is a powerful, it is a secure, it is a decentralized network, but the low number of actual live dApps shows this lag from a real-world adoption perspective. Now this Vasil upgrade will finally bring major improvements to the network, but it will probably not have an immediate effect on the ecosystem. Still, over the next few months or years, it's possible that we will see more complex and useful applications built on Cardano, and I am curious where this will lead the network to. For example, you maybe saw the interview I did with the World Mobile team. I think what ADA really needs and currently lacks is a lead customer. Staking ADA on ADA is good and all, but it needs to be used for something more. And at scale, Ethereum has had many lead customers driving its adoption forward. There was stablecoins, the ICO craze with 99% of projects failed, but a few made it. For example, BNB, a DeFi exchange, it's DeFi lending, NFTs, variety of projects that have grown to large scale. ADA needs similar sectors where Cardano is leading. With volume, building the world's best product and putting it on the internet isn't enough. That's only half the story. Then you also need customers also. And in this tech field, many people forget what a customer is. A customer is someone who is willing to pay and is actually paying to use your service. If you go back to the chart, short term, I don't know what will happen. I didn't know that last time either. I just suggested that if it will dump, a stop loss will protect you. And if it doesn't dump, well, then the stop loss won't hit and it won't cost you anything. If we start with the ADA to USD chart, you see here that the trend, according to Lars Online, is down. On September 12, price peaked at $2.80. Even if you didn't have any stop loss there, Lars Online turned down here at about $2. And then it's been a pretty straight line down. Right now, as I'm recording this, price is $0.45. And as you see here, ADA versus USD has formed a descending triangle. Now for this pattern to confirm, it has to break below the neckline, preferably close there. And if it does, if price closes somewhere here at $0.4, this chart ADA versus USD does not look great. If that happens, trend down and a confirmed bearish pattern. If I had ADA trading versus USD, that would probably be where I would pull the handbrake to protect capital and see what happens next. However, as I've said many times, it's pretty difficult to trade altcoins versus US dollar at this point, because most of the price action is simply determined what this chart does, Bitcoin versus US dollar. If we want to look at a specific project in isolation, it's easier to trade Cardano versus BTC, because then at least some of that effect is separated, and it's easier to look at the project in isolation. And if you look at that chart, it looks a little bit different actually. Spring 2022, we actually had a bottom pattern, a double bottom that confirmed. And that pattern hit the target, so that worked. Since then, price is bumping up against this resistance area at about 2,400 sats. It broke out once, it failed, it came down again, and if we zoom in here, you see that in the same way as happened in August, every time price bumps up against this resistance, there's a reaction down. You can see that by the wick, for example, here today. So clearly there's some selling pressure here. Will the buying be enough to push through? We don't know. But of course the risk is increasing with the upgrade being tomorrow, where we always have a risk of one of two things happen. Number one, something could actually go wrong. Number two, it could be a great success, but there is still a seldom used type of behavior in the market. Then we can discuss, is the trend up or down on ADA versus the BTC? Ideally, you want to see multiple time frames agreeing that it's in an uptrend. On the daily, it is indeed up here, but if we change to, for example, 3-day candles, which has proven quite successful in the past to catch the true trend, the trend is neutral. It's no longer down, which is a good news, but it's not up either. And if we look at the weekly candles, the trend is still down. And versus US dollar, the trend is down both on the daily, the 3-day time frame, and the 1-week time frame. So from a trading perspective, the situation is pretty clear. Versus BTC, if price managed to break out of that resistance, ADA to BTC looks pretty good. And versus dollar, it's also clear there's a well-defined point to put the stop loss. If you want to put the safe foot first and protect your capital in case there is a downturn after this upgrade as well. From a fundamental perspective, it's very clear Cardano is working hard on their different technical updates, but they also need to find customers that are successful and scales the usage of the network. In terms of market cap, Cardano is still holding up well. Note it's ahead of Solana, ahead of Polkadot, ahead of Polygon Matic, ahead of Tron, ahead of AVAX, ahead of Cosmos, far ahead of Near, Stellar, Kronos, Algorand, Hedera, Tezos, and many others. That also means it has a lot to prove, and the distance up to the leader of the space is from market cap 15 billion up to Ethereum 164 billion. So as you see, both the downside and the upside is actually huge for Cardano. And as I've said many times, in global technology, there's rarely anything middle way in the end. It's either a huge success or a catastrophic failure, nothing in between. Thank you, tack. CTO Larsson out. Hej då!